Is it just Mars in Virgo, or did anyone else wake up suddenly feeling motivated to revamp your lifestyle habits, especially as it concerns your diet, nutrition, exercise, and fitness routines? Or feel motivated to reorganize or declutter the home? Hi, I'm Jenny Kern. Welcome back to J. Kernifer Astrology. Today we'll be exploring the new moon, 24 degrees of Cancer, on Monday, July 17th, 2023. At 2:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll list out some interesting things I've noticed about this new moon, some eccentricities. Then I'll dive into the aspects and larger chart patterns involved to help explain the energy and make predictions for what we can see and how to better work with that energy so we can navigate through the energy by working with it rather than against it. Annually, the new moon in Cancer affords us an opportunity to initiate something emotionally. It's an opportunity to gain clarity and plant seeds of intention related to your most private inner self, home, family, and ancestral line. This is bringing in new events and opportunities that are aligned with soul purpose and allows us to set intention from a place of deep inner knowledge and wisdom. As a reminder, the new moon is the very first phase of the moon's 8-phase cycle, when 0% of the moon is illuminated due to its alignment with the sun in the same position in the sky. Because it's the first phase, it represents new beginnings, and it is the alignment of the sun, our soul's core expression and mission, with the moon, our private, emotional, comfort-seeking nature of private selves. This is when the veil is said to be thin, when there is a close connection between the soul and intuition. So we're able to set some really powerful intentions for what we'd like to see manifest, not only in the upcoming weeks and months, but especially in the next 6-month cycle, to be harvested under the corresponding full moon in Cancer. The full moon in Cancer is on December 27th, 2023 at 4 degrees of Cancer. This new moon occurring in the sign of Cancer, it means there's an emphasis of energy on Cancer energy and Cancer traits. Cancer is a very family-oriented homebody sign that incarnated to nurture and provide a warm home to others, but also to initiate emotionally and empathetically through its immense compassion for others. This initiating emotionally comes from it being a cardinal water sign. It's represented by the crab, the glyph of the crab, which has a hard shell, but a very soft interior. And that says a lot about all of the water signs in general, but especially Cancer and Scorpio, which also has a symbol within a hard exterior, a scorpion. Very reactive, emotionally reactive energies when they're young and unevolved, and a tendency with their claws to cling and hold on to things that no longer serve them for longer than they need to. Things like resentment, anger, betrayal. They have a very soft interior that they protect with a hard shell or walls that are meant to keep them safe. But oftentimes, as we're seeing with this opposition with Pluto, there are walls and boundaries that we put up that do more than keep us safe. They block us from abundance. They block us from opportunities at love, financial success when those opportunities come knocking, if we're not ready to receive them and if we're not open. It's occurring at 24 degrees, which is a Piscean degree, 12 doubled. This has a lot to do with endings, illusion, delusion, where we set ourselves up through delusion or where we fall for the illusions of others, where we give our power away or where we avoid doing the emotional work through patterns of escapism, emotional avoidance, or even fall into patterns of addiction. In numerology, the number 24, you add the digits 2 and 4 to get 6, which has to do with Virgo. The number 6 being related to Mercury and being related to Virgo energy. This is happening in the third decan of Cancer, which is ruled by Neptune and has more of a Piscean flavor. So adding to the emphasis of what's in Pisces and what's in Virgo, opposite Pisces. We'll get into that in a bit as we explore the aspects. This energy carries a lot of the same energy as the 4 of Cups, if you're familiar with tarot, or tarot, tomato, which is, it has a lot to do with, if you can envision the card, there are 4 cups. One is being offered and it's at the bottom of a rainbow, and then there are 3 other cups, and the person is focused on the spoiled or spilled empty cups, the lack mentality, and failing to see the opportunity that's right there under its nose because of a lack of appreciation or gratitude for what it already has, creating blocks to be able to receive opportunities when they present themselves. Right into some of the interesting eccentricities I noticed about this new moon, 24 degrees of Cancer, happening on July 17th, 2023. 24 degrees being associated with Pisces means that we should pay attention to anything in the sign of Pisces, which is both Neptune, retrograde, in one of its signs of rulership, so strong, and Saturn, also retrograde, answering to Neptune, but influencing anything in Capricorn, which is Pluto. We have the number 24 in numerology reducing and adding to 6, a Virgo degree. So we need to pay attention to whatever is also in Virgo, which happens to be opposite Saturn in a very challenging position to everything in Pisces. We recently had Mars enter Virgo, which puts a big emphasis of energy in the sign of Virgo. We have an even larger emphasis of energy coming to Virgo as we enter Leo season and as we approach Virgo season, with a Mercury retrograde spending a long time in Virgo, with the Sun in Virgo answering to Mercury. This is happening on a Monday, which is the moon's day. As you can see in several languages, Monday translates to the moon's day. It's happening in its sign of rulership, the moon in domicile in Cancer. This is like a triple dose of sensitive, sentimental, nostalgic, and family-oriented Cancer energy, teaching us to sit down with how we truly feel. The sun and moon are still conjunct Juno, our long-term commitment. And this is happening in opposition to Pluto in Capricorn, which has been transforming our personal definitions of success. For some of us and many of us, it's transformed the work we do and our careers and allowed us to step into our calling, aligning our work with soul purpose. For some of us, that is happening right now. This is bringing up a lot of power and control dynamics and manipulation in relationships, especially our long-term commitments, especially those involving our families and our one-on-one relationships. Coinciding with the shifting of the nodal axis. The lunar nodes are shifting signs and they're trading rulers. This is initiating a new 18-month cycle that'll be from July of 2023, July 17th under this new moon, until January of 2025. This new moon is a time of heightened karmic energy. And we'll get into that in a bit as I discuss the grand Cardinal Cross involved with the new moon, Pluto, and the north and south node of fate and karmic destiny. The previous 18-month cycle, which was from January 2022 until July 17th of 2023, with the north node in Taurus answering to Venus and the south node in Scorpio answering to both Pluto and Mars. Well, now the north node is in Aries, answering to Mars, and the south node is in Libra, answering to Venus. So the north and south node will be trading rulers. What this means for you and I is that our collective focus will be, instead of on our values, our money, our resources, our food, our land, our property, and our egoic lessons on manipulation, woe is me, playing the victim. Scorpio has a lot to do with like shared money, inheritances, codependency, maybe through finance. This will shift, so those egoic lessons will be in Libra. So they'll be focused on shadow Libra. Codependency still coming into play, but more in our one-on-one relationships and business partnerships, where we give to receive or where we overgive. In the workplace, it can be in a boss-employee relationship, or it can be in a romantic relationship or a friendship even. Where is the energy imbalanced? Where are we perhaps being taken? Where are we giving more than we're getting in return, whether it's in the workplace or in the relationship? With the North Node in Aries answering to Mars, will be called to tap into our divine masculine energy a little bit more, that yang, pursuing or chasing energy. The digits of 2023 add up to 7, ruling Venus and Libra. A Venus year will be heavily focused for the remainder of 2023 on shedding collective patterns of codependency, people-pleasing, conflict avoidance, and passive aggression. Just some of the shadow Libra traits. This is forming an immediate grand Cardinal Cross, a very powerful and very challenging placement. So it's challenging to overcome, but then once you learn how to integrate those energies, there's a lot of power behind it. It's a grand Cardinal Cross involving the new moon, the Sun, Moon, and Juno in the late degrees of Cancer, opposite Pluto retrograde at 29 degrees of Capricorn. That double dose of plutonic destructive energy in Capricorn affect our economy, our money, careers, big business, who holds power currently. All of those things are coming into play, working against where we're focused our energy, so control and power dynamics and issues and challenges. Oppositions usually involve interpersonal relations, while squares are more internal pressure points. Forming a square, so it's two sets of oppositions that cross each other perfectly, forming a cross. The North and South node, which are always in opposition and travel together, always traveling in retrograde or backwards motion. Since it was in Taurus and Scorpio, 0 degrees, 29 degrees, it starts at the very end. So it comes into an exact square to Pluto, which has been sitting there waiting to blow for quite some time. This square, we've been feeling it for a couple of months. Since May, since April, the square really started to come into more of a pressure point, but now it's exact, it's precise. And the Sun will approach that exact opposition around July 20th, just in time for Venus to officially begin retrograde at 28 degrees of Leo. More on that to come. This comes with a Yod, which is considered the finger of God, a very rare chart pattern and a very lucky and beneficial one, pointing at Venus retrograde. A Yod is a pattern involving really 3 main points. A focal point that's in conjunct, so 150 degrees, almost opposite, 2 planets that are in sextile or working together. So in this case, Venus is the focal point, which is currently fused with Black Moon Lilith, still Pallas Athena and Mars. Though Pallas Athena and Mars have moved on to Virgo, they're still in conjunction with Venus at 28 degrees. It's within the last 2 degrees of Leo, which is still fused with Black Moon Lilith at 21 degrees of Leo. So all of that helping us identify and work on areas where we give our power away. Perhaps we're giving too much stock to the opinions of others, or we're listening to somebody naysay on our dreams and it's keeping us from our full potential. We're really looking at that and we're healing that inner child wounding, whatever it is. We're bringing it to the light so that we can work through it and release those blocks to the heart chakra. This is in conjunct to Neptune and Pluto, which are working together, and they're really benefiting us and healing us on a deep, personal, very transformative way. It's helping a lot of us tap into our spiritual sides as we learn how to balance, lean into that spiritual. It's probably been repressed for many of you, and integrate it into daily life in some sort of a practical means. Balancing Saturn and Pisces, pragmatic with the idealistic and the dream world. Precipice of a Venus retrograde through Leo, which will force us to reassess what we love and value, the work that we do, what we spend our time and energy invested into, and our relationships. How we show up in our relationship with ourselves, and how that projects into our interpersonal relationships as well. We're healing heart chakra blocks and releasing walls, identifying self-sabotaging patterns, limiting thought patterns, and belief systems, shifting into newer paradigms that work for where we're headed. Here is the Grand Cardinal Cross pattern. We'll dive into each section as we explore the cardinal signs. Cardinal water, Cancer, where the Sun, Moon, and Juno align. Opposite Cardinal Earth, Capricorn, where Pluto is retrograde 29 degrees, which are forming a square to the nodes of fate and destiny in opposition to one another always. The North node of fate and destiny fused with Chiron in Aries, 29 degrees of Aries, opposite the South node in Libra, 29 degrees. Pluto in Capricorn, which has been in Capricorn since 2008, has been transforming for many of us our ambitions, our long-term goals, our careers, and on a personal level, how we define success. Perhaps we're shifting out of relying on societal paradigms and things that were projected onto us by our overly critical parents, and shifting instead into creating the life of our dreams. With Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and it's not the final time it'll be here. It'll be here one more time. So this is a retrograde. Once the retrograde is over, Pluto will move forward again, direct motion, and it will revisit this 29th degree. So we're not finished yet. Whenever Pluto is at the 29th degree, it's a double dose of Pluto, because that 29th degree is the final degree of the sign. It is that cusp. You know, those people that were born right on the first day of a sign when the sun is like kind of awkwardly still. Am I a Virgo or am I a Libra? Well, you're both actually. You have a foot in each and you're a cusper, which is what I like to call you. And it's a term of endearment, absolutely. And my Gemini moon knows exactly how to deal with your adaptable and changing energy. And you're meant to learn to integrate and balance those two energies. Some of you might be born while the moon was shifting signs, and this is a similar effect. Maybe it was when the moon was in the late degrees of Leo and early degrees of Virgo. You're meant to balance and integrate the traits of Leo, which late degrees of Leo indicate mastery, with the early degrees of Virgo. Yes, you can be fun and playful and self-focused, but bring that critical lens to the table too and find balance, because we need to play and work. Cancer and Capricorn indicates some back and forth potential power plays, especially Capricorn involving the workplace, finances, money, career, Cancer involving the family. And with Juno in the picture, this brings Pluto opposite Juno, power plays and manipulation, chess games in our long-term commitments. They can be in our families, they can be in the workplace, they can be in our romantic relationships, they can be in our friendships and networks. They can appear in many different ways. Pay attention to what's coming up. These are breadcrumbs from the universe for you to pay attention to and work on during the upcoming Venus retrograde. This is forming a square to the nodes of fate and destiny, which we've talked about in previous videos, and I encourage you to look back on the entire history of the year so far. We started on this channel with the full moon in Virgo, which is pretty significant as we approach this Mercury retrograde through Virgo, and the upcoming blue moon, the double full moon in August, which will be in Pisces, 6 months opposite from when we started here. So I'm excited to see what unfolds. This is bringing a major surrender or transformation. So the North Node and Chiron are in conjunction in Aries, and they're getting closer. The North Node is moving faster than Chiron is while it's retrograde. It's a collective focus on our deep soul wounding, inner child wounding, especially with Chiron forming a trine or working harmoniously in the same element to Black Moon Lilith, Venus about to retrograde in Leo, still in conjunction with Pallas Athena, our creative intelligence, fused with Mars in Virgo, which is a much more critical and self-focused energy. I haven't really teased too much into it yet, but I'll get into it when we get into our Pisces Virgos aspects in a bit. When Mars is in Virgo, it's focused on health and healing, plans, schedules, routines, organization, routine maintenance, lifestyle habits, things that make up daily life. This is opposite the South Node in Libra. But whenever the South Node is in a sign, it's like having another moon sign there. We'll be feeling a lot of the egoic comfort. So that ego, when it comes up, that ego is really resistant. It really wants to take control, and it doesn't want you to kill layers of it. So it fights and it's stubborn. When that ego is in Libra, those shadow Libra traits are passive aggressive, they're conflict avoidant, it's a really other focused sign, which can be good and it can be bad, right? It's all about balance and harmony. Because it's other focused and it incarnated to create social harmony, social balance, justice, peace, beauty. It can give too much stock to the opinions of other people. It can be afraid of disappointing or upsetting somebody, so it might not tell it how it genuinely feels. When this is really imbalanced, it can be deceitful, or it can even lie because it's afraid of upsetting or the negative consequences of saying what it truly wants to say. This is when Libra's really shadow or imbalanced, and it can come off disingenuine. Libra can also, all of the signs have the capacity to be manipulative. I am a Libra. I'm not coming at Libra. But Libra has, because it has this chameleon energy that can just kind of like flow and merge with wherever it is, it has a tremendous ability to manipulate. It can intuitively sense the needs of a group or the needs of someone else in relation to it and be that. So think about that ability Think about it being used for good and think about it being used for evil. And then that's where free choice comes into play, right? It's you have these gifts and abilities, but are you using them with intention, aligned with your personal value system that's intentionally bringing good, or are you using them for selfish gain? When the South Node is in Libra, it answers to Venus, which is in its pre-retrograde shadow at 28 degrees. We'll get into more about Venus when we dive into the Yod, but Venus in Leo is very focused on the self. In this case, we'll be doing a lot of self-healing. We'll be looking at releasing some self-sabotaging patterns, looking at places where we disempower ourselves, and healing some boundaries. More on that grand cardinal cross. With the Sun and Moon opposite Pluto, square to the North and South Node, the North Node opposite South Node, square the Sun and Moon opposite Pluto. This means that our push for independence, autonomy, and self-sufficiency, the North Node and Chiron in Aries, working against our egoic patterns, our shadow Libra traits, our codependency, our people-pleasing, our patterns of giving to receive, is putting pressure on the focal point of our energy, our soul and intuitive nature aligned in family-oriented Cancer, which is working against our deep personal transformation to our careers, ambitions, how we define success. A lot of involvement of work-life balance, boundaries. There's conflict and tension around balancing demands of home and career. I see power and control issues in one-on-one relationships and business partnerships, family relationships. Definitely watch out for negative self-talk involving the body, especially with Mars in Virgo. More on that in a bit. There are strong inner forces that seem to feel like they're pulling you in a different direction than the focal point of your energy and where that appears to lie. Let's navigate over to Pisces and our aspects involving Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. First, we have Saturn retrograde 6 degrees of Pisces opposite Mars and Pallas Athena 4 and 3 degrees respectively in Virgo. That's a big deal. And we have Neptune and Pisces in sextile to both Uranus and Taurus and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, which we'll talk about both of those in the patterns that they're involved in. And we have the new moon forming a trine with Neptune. So the Sun and Moon and Juno long-term commitments fused in Cancer, trine Neptune retrograde 27 degrees of Pisces. We'll talk about all of that in a bit. First, diving into Saturn retrograde in Pisces opposite Mars in Virgo. Let's talk a little bit about Mars in Virgo. Mars is in Virgo from July 10th until August 27th. So that's essentially 2 months of a very strong focus on Virgo energy. Mars is our drive, our motivation, and the outward expression of our energy. So we will all be feeling this Virgo energy. You will especially notice this energy if you have placements that are ruled by Mars. So placements that are in Scorpio or Aries, especially Scorpio and Aries risings. This is showing up for the more mundane, the daily details of life. The 6th house in astrology rules those aspects of the daily life. Routines, schedules, work, life, health, preventative health, habits, things that make up our overall lifestyle. As this is coinciding with a Venus retrograde through Leo, this is going to involve a lot of self-love, which starts with keeping promises to the self. It also means showing up for yourself. This is in Virgo. It answers to the planet that rules the sign of Virgo, which is Mercury. Mercury is in Leo, July 28th, answering to the Sun, which is still in Cancer until same day as Venus retrograde, July 22nd, when the Sun enters Leo, its sign of rulership. Prioritizing self-care. Instead of making excuses like, I don't have time to read, we're getting up earlier and we're making time to do things like journaling, incorporate yoga, incorporate breath work, incorporate reading. That's just an example from my personal life. What Mars in Virgo wants to teach you is that you are what you repeatedly do. Those little tiny habits really do add up to make you who you are. This energy is great for getting things done. It's highly productive. Virgo energy to begin with, which is a mutable earth energy, brilliant at planning and with foresight, a stickler for efficiency, with an acute eye for detail and a gift for organizing, is productive as it is to begin with. When you add the energy of Mars, which carries with it cardinal fire, always in a hurry, rush, but also ambitious and productive, both hate wasting time. They're fast and they're focused on a hard work ethic. This makes Mars more careful, more detail-oriented, more organized, and overall more focused on efficiency. We'll also see an increased focus on Virgo-related things like health and the connection between diet, the ingredients, what we're consuming, and how it can impact our health, and also vice versa. How neglecting emotional health or neglecting to address underlying emotions that are repressed can come out in our physical bodies through illness. Those are some themes we will see with this Saturn in Pisces opposition to Mars in Virgo. We'll be focusing a lot of energy into revamping our routines, especially as they relate to health, nutrition, fitness, our relationship with toxins and addictive substances, maybe toxic people, and working on our boundaries with all of the above. This Mars in Virgo energy encourages us to focus on the details and on being consistent. It's great energy for balancing budgets, for planning for the future, for learning something new, a skill or a trade, especially involving the hands. A great time for learning a new healing modality, and it's also a good time to search for a job. Many of us are evaluating the work that we do and whether it's aligned with soul purpose, encouraging us to consider looking elsewhere. A thing to note about Mars in Virgo, because of its high expectations for self and others, when imbalanced, this can be projected outward. So definitely watch out for internal and external criticism, nitpicking, overthinking, getting too caught in the details, letting them slow you down, or being too perfectionistic, getting too caught in the weeds, overthinking, and forgetting about the big picture. That's when you know that your Virgo is imbalanced. And whenever something's imbalanced, you can look to its opposite sign to help show you how to bring it back into balance. When Virgo is imbalanced, you can look to Pisces, where Virgo is pragmatic, grounded, down to earth, and prides itself on its logic. Pisces is directly opposite, deep in its spirituality and its ability to transform not only itself but others. It's mutable water. Mutable water just wants to blend and merge, which brings us right into Saturn in Pisces. Mars encourages us to lean into the mutable, grounded, pragmatic, practical, consistent, hardworking Earth energies of Virgo for the next 2 to 3 months or so. Saturn, opposite in Pisces, is subtly under the surface, reminding us to work on our boundaries and to better integrate our spiritual and pragmatic lives. This has a strong Neptunian influence, with Neptune being in Pisces in one of its signs of rulership, so it's really strong. So then anything else in the sign of Pisces is going to answer to that stronger planet. But when Saturn and Mars are opposite each other, so disregarding the signs, these are some of the things that you can see. Saturn opposite Mars struggles to finish what it starts due to challenges to its motivation and or restrictions to its energy. So with this placement, we may see some roadblocks and obstacles forcing us to slow down and stop. Those might be delivered to our health or to the health of people close to us, forcing us to remember what's most important. This pattern, this challenge, ultimately teaches us more tenacity and to not give up in the face of obstacles. So focus on that. This can bring negative karma for avoidant or escapist or addictive patterns of behavior and tendencies. It can also bring negative karma for the use of toxic substances and our reliance on relationships with toxic people. It can bring frustrations and disappointments in unfulfilled dreams. It can bring to the surface repressed anger and resentment and issues with authority. So watch for impulsivity and reactiveness. And something might be removed. Ultimately leading to a change in priorities. This is an opportunity to take more accountability and level up. Many of these frustrations and disappointments are overall tied to our attitude, which we ultimately have complete control and power over. Let a Virgo tell you that every thought is a seed that can manifest. This challenging pattern, Mars opposite Saturn, also brings good karma, rewards for hard work, and areas where we have been consistently hardworking and grounded in reality. These challenging aspects are ultimately teaching us more patience and to slow down and focus on what's most important. So Neptune, we mentioned already that Neptune is in one of its signs of rulership. It's really strong here. Because Saturn's also in Pisces, Neptune is influencing Saturn, which is the planetary ruler for Pluto when Pluto is in Capricorn. It's also influencing Pluto, our deep personal transformation. It's in sextile to Pluto, so it's working with Pluto in Capricorn, dissolving formerly commonly held societal definitions of success, for example. And it's also sextile to Uranus, 22 degrees of Taurus. Sudden change and revolution. It's been working to change subtly in the background our values and what's most important to us. And these little curveballs that are coming our way are helping us realign for some and refocus for others on what's most important, what values are sustainable, and what ones, like greed, power, etc., can lead us down a really dark and unfulfilling path. Neptune trine new moon with Juno in Cancer has a deep need for spirituality. It increases our connection to our intuition and creativity as well. So I encourage you to tap into that energy. For working in front of the mirror or in front of the camera. So if you're a YouTuber like I am, this is a great time to get some content recorded. With this increased sensitivity, you're encouraged to avoid toxins and chemicals and any exposure to negative energy, because this can intensify the more sensitive you are. It's a great time to book a tarot reading or an astrology chart reading. I do private readings. I'll link my email below, and I'll launch that website as soon as I can so that you can continue to book that. And it's my side hustle for now. I would love it to be a full-time thing, but we need to get this to at least 500 or more, 500 or 1,000 subscribers ideally. Watch hours are pretty much there, but that's the last metric, is 500 hours to monetize this channel, and then I could do this full-time, which would be really cool. It's a great time to hit the yoga mat, to do some breath work, some meditation. With all the placements in Pisces and Cancer, I encourage you to go to the lake, go to the ocean. Freshwater is ideal. I mean, oceans, that's great too. Saltwater bath at home. If you don't have that at home, there are local like spas you can go to. There's one in Cheltenham, not too far from where I live, that has like all different temperatures and different salts and herbals and cool things. There's one like an hour in Edison, New Jersey. I guess it's like an hour and a half, hour and 15 away. And that's like, I think it's like 35 for a day, but it has 11 different saunas and a separate men's and women's like bathhouse type area, which is private. And it has like a cold tub all the way up to very hot herbal tub. And you can do like a full body scrub. You can do massage. You can do all sorts of services there too for an extra fee. But it's a really nice, very relaxing, restorative place that would be great for this energy because it's highly imaginative and creative. And we also have Mercury in Leo, which is really focused on self-expression and really creative, really good at learning through patterns. I can really pick up the guitar, like a jukebox for song lyrics and songs, that type of energy. This can bring out underlying talents in music, singing, drama, and the arts. It's also deeply healing, and it carries some psychic energy, some connection to the other deeper Piscean realms. It's helping us bring more awareness and healing some unconscious patterns that we might have felt enslaved or entrapped to previously, imprisoned by. As those gradually come to the light of consciousness, we're able to heal them and thus break free of these patterns. It seems subtle at first, but trust me, through time and through each full moon, as you release things that weigh upon you, someone who's as sensitive as I am, it took monthly releases. Sometimes it takes more than that, and sometimes it takes therapy sessions, and sometimes it takes me booking tarot readers from other people. Ultimately, you want to learn to rely upon your own intuition, though, not the intuition of other people. And that's what this North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, I think ultimately will teach us each to do in our own way, based on our own familial backgrounds and our own levels of enmeshment, and how much that can suppress our own identity. As somebody whose chart ruler is Venus, somebody who was born during sunrise, during the middle of Libra season, so a Libra sun and rising reporting to an exalted Venus in Libra in the 12th house, fused also with my Mercury, my conscious mind, the way I communicate. All of those together, a lot of Libra. I can tell you firsthand what it's like. You can look at the previous video in the full moon in Capricorn, where I talk about ways that I gave my power away and how ultimately, like, yes, I can blame each narcissist that comes into my life, but ultimately it was me who had the blinders on and didn't see what was in front of me that was so obvious once you detached the emotion and the feeling from all of it. It became more and more apparent where the imbalances were. That has taught me how to really look at and guide other people in navigating, especially narcissistic relationships, but any relationship really. It's never going to be 50-50, but you want to strive for anything beyond 40-60 is, I would call that into question. You can, if you're the giver, pull back your energy a little bit and just see. Just see, do they notice? Does anything change? Does the friendship just suddenly disappear? Who knows? Try it. Give yourself a break from the toxic influences. This really cool and rare Yod chart pattern. So this is considered the finger of God, and it's a triangle pointing to a planet of focus. In this case, it's pointing to Venus, our planet of what we love and value, or what we invest the most time and energy into, also tied to the work that we do, and our divine feminine, our inner yin or attracting energy, influencing the signs, anything in the signs that Venus rules, which are Taurus and Libra. In Taurus, we have Jupiter, expansion, luck, and wisdom. So expanding that Taurian, it's very security, resource-focused energy with Uranus. And Jupiter and Uranus are coming into conjunction in Taurus. So there's going to be a lot of like revolution and change, and that's going to be intensified, and it's going to affect like the food industry. It's going to affect property. It might affect real estate. It might affect money itself. We'll get a little taste of it, and then we'll have a little retrograde, so they'll come out of conjunction, and then next year, Jupiter and Uranus will really be in conjunction for the rest of Jupiter's transit through Taurus into May of 2024. In Libra, we have the South Node, which we've talked about previously. This Yod is influencing all those other aspects we mentioned previously. As we mentioned, 2023 is a Venus year, adding up to 7. So Venus will be a focal point. It'll be very important, especially at the yearly midpoint. Venus is a little stalled right now. It's been pre-retrograde shadow, and it's spent a lot of time at the 28-degree mark of Leo, which is a significant mark. This is the exact location of Regulus, which is the heart of the Leo constellation, and the exact point of where this Leo retrograde begins. 28 degrees is also considered a fame degree, as it's associated with the household name. This Yod pattern, we have Venus, which is in conjunction with Black Moon Lilith at 21 degrees, and still Mars. So Mars is at 4 degrees of Virgo with Pallas Athena at 3 degrees of Virgo, which is just 4 degrees from Venus at 28 degrees of Leo. So it's still a close enough conjunction for all of these planets to be working together. If you remember from previous videos, and I encourage you to follow along, so these energy patterns build on one another, and I'll relate back to each video, are helping us heal blocks to creativity, blocks to abundance, areas where we give too much opinion, give too much power over to other people's opinions, or allow them to naysay on our dreams, for example. It's here for a while, and this happens 2 times. Venus is at the 28th degree of Leo from July 18th until July 28th for 10 days, and then from August 29th until September 10th, so covering Labor Day, for 12 days. And both of these times, this Yod will occur because Neptune and Pluto move really slowly. So the first time, this July 18th through July 28th, Neptune will be at 27 degrees, while Pluto will be 29 to 28 degrees, finally shifting into that 28th degree. And then 8:29 to 9:10, that will have Neptune at 26 degrees with Pluto at 28 degrees, while Venus is at 28 degrees. So we'll see what happens there. The nodes might also be at 28 degrees, so that might be something to check, because that would be also an exact square. And then with Venus at the 28th degree with an exact square, that could be exciting. So this in conjunct with Venus and Neptune is bringing self-acceptance. It's asking us to look at where we've been fooled by love through illusion and delusion, where we've been that party who was in that relationship and just really wanted to believe in the potential they saw in that person, but had those blinders on and just wasn't really able to accept that that person, while they might be capable of becoming that man one day, isn't that person here and now. And that's ultimately how they're showing up, and that's ultimately how you have to respond with your energy. And whether you're on that side of it or you're the person who is intentionally manipulating somebody that you know would probably eat out of the palm of your hand, if you're that person, this is all being dismantled under this and brought to the light. It's showing us where we've been drawn to unrealistic ideals. And with all the Virgo energy, this might include ways that we've been too perfectionistic or too nitpicky in what we're looking for, and maybe looking at where that person might not exist, where we might need to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more mutable. This is ultimately helping us discover our true selves. With Venus and everything fused with it in conjunct Pluto retrograde at 29 degrees of Capricorn, this is unearthing, helping us unearth the root causes of our fears and insecurities, which contribute to our self-sabotaging patterns. It's helping us cultivate stronger boundaries and better power and control dynamics. This yod also involves a sextile between Neptune and Pluto, both in retrograde. Neptune in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn. The deep healing to our creativity and spirituality is working with our deep personal transformation to our ambitions, our careers, our long-term goals, and for many of us, our personal definitions of success. All of that supporting as we reflect upon that critical parent voice, which I believe it was Carl Jung with the critical parent voice. It's an echo of probably a critical parent, which for many of us were, my parents are the Pluto in Leo generation, but my mother had a lot of Virgo. And for many of the Pluto in Sagittarius, Gen Z generation right below me, and then my own brothers, I guess, as well, there seems to be a lot of generational patterns of like passing down. If it's like really bad, it can be emotional abuse, but it's criticism. It's generational patterns of criticism, whether it's a sensitivity to criticism or it's like a projection of. So then you have internalized this, but maybe like it's painful. So you've like kind of put it out of your awareness or swept it under the rug or whatever to help. Your ego has helped try to protect yourself, right? So now you're really critical and nitpicky, but you're not even aware that you're like that. And then you're attracting people that are critical and nitpicky to help you reflect back to you, who irk you, right? Ironically, because they're helping you show this mirror effect, right? Learning through Libra, learning through mirroring that energy of the other. They're reflecting back onto you. Anything that bothers you in somebody else, there's really something within yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't notice it. And that's the same thing when somebody bullies us, right? They wouldn't, if it didn't mean something to them, they wouldn't even notice it. So really, it's usually a projection of something about themselves that they're insecure about, that they're noticing in you. So you don't have to give, you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to listen to their criticism. You can remind them. And this is part of why my mother and I don't have a relationship. We don't speak. And maybe that's what this new moon in Cancer, where it falls in my chart, it falls exactly on my Chiron in Cancer, which is a big gaping mother wound. It's in my 10th house, which is not only very visible. The 10th house rules your public reputation and career. It's used in my career. It's something that was fundamental in my upbringing for me to not only face, but to heal so that I could empower myself and put myself in a position where I can guide others through narcissistic relationships. To see where this is affecting you in your chart, and I'll show you by overlaying my own, you will want to look anywhere you have 24 to 29 degrees of the cardinal signs. So anywhere where the cardinal signs, which are Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn. So first, in Cancer, 24 to 29 degrees of Cancer, that's where the sun and moon are. With Capricorn, 24 to 29 degrees, that's where Pluto is. It may also affect 3 degrees in the other direction into that fixed neighboring sign, which neighboring Capricorn would be Aquarius, neighboring Cancer would be Leo, fixed fire, and then you'll want to look 24 to 29 degrees of Aries, and then neighboring Taurus, fixed earth, early degrees, and then opposite that, opposite Aries would be cardinal air, Libra, with fixed water Scorpio neighboring, so 29-ish degrees Libra to 24 degrees. Any planets there you'll want to look at, and then into that first couple degrees of Scorpio maybe as well. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. If you took anything away from this video, be sure to check out these other videos in the series. See you under the full moon.